and welcome to Night Callers Bigfoot Radio. It is March 25th, 2020, and you're here with your hosts, Lauren Smith and Dustin Clark. How you doing tonight, Dustin?
I am doing pretty good, and just so everybody knows, I will be clearing my throat for this show. It's mainly because for some reason when I have to be quiet, I constantly have to clear my throat. So I'm not actually sick, so nobody worry about me. I'm fine. How are you, Lauren?
It's terrible. We have to, explain that, because I have had the worst allergies all week. And I mean sneezing, coughing, itchy eyes, which you're not supposed to touch your face right now, and it has been, honest to God, terrible. I literally go wash my hands so that I can touch my face and scratch my face. It's so ridiculous. And I have to apologize. If I sneeze or cough, I'm like, I don't have the Rona. It's terrible. But people look at you like you're the Unabomber if you cough or sneeze.
Well, I was at the post office today, and, I haven't sneezed in, a week, right? And I'm standing in line waiting to send this order out, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, shit, I have to sneeze. And I was almost, in tears trying to hold it back just the pressure from trying to hold it back. Finally, I had to walk out of the post office and do that little inch your elbow. I was worried about getting shot or something. Plus, I wasn't in the best post office in the area, so.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. I know. If anyone even looks kind of feverish, I'm immediately just kind of like, hey, so are you taking your temperature today, and how are you feeling? I softly interrogate them to see if they're hiding their illness from me. Terrible. But, so they shut schools down in Oklahoma for the rest of the year. We got that news today, so Dustin and I, plus all the other parents of Oklahoma children, will be teaching our children virtually from home. So, also today, I just want to talk about that real quick, is that they have shut schools down for the rest of the year today for Oklahoma children. And also today, they mentioned that alcohol is an essential business and can be delivered to your home now. Okay, on the same day those two things happened. So that tells you, they are serious about this. I was so excited to hear that. I'm feeling great about that news. They have kids too. Yeah, I was pretty excited because I started getting all these requests from my son's teacher. Download this app and this app and this app, and then we'll have a screen time where we have a meeting for 30 minutes, and we do our classroom stuff, and then you go do his homework with him, and I'm just sitting there I'm still at work. I'm essential personnel, so I'm still at work all day, and our employees are stressed out and upset, and so they are calling, screaming and freaking out. So I'm dealing with that, and then I have to come home and try to teach my child teaching things. And I'm like, man, this is why I'm not a teacher. I'm like, I don't even like most kids. This is hard. We need to pay our teachers a lot more. And I think they just decided they're going to prove it to us like this. That's their goal. Terrible. Okay, terrible rant over. But the first video thing tonight went pretty well. Adam had me giggling because I'm holding the phone with the screen on him so that he can see his teacher and she can see him, and his little friends are on the screen too. And he kept raising his hand, and it was just cracking me up. I said, Adam, you don't have to raise your hand, buddy. She can't really see you. You have to say it. It was hilarious. He did not understand what was going on. Anyway. Okay, we have limited time with our wonderful guest, so if you're ready, we can go ahead and bring her on. I don't know if you have any Bigfoot news.
I do not.
I know I did want to mention that a couple states have issued curfews from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., and so as Stephen Hill mentioned earlier, that really sucks for Bigfooters. Like, it's daytime or get out in the woods where you can't be found and stay the night. So, yeah, just y'all be aware. Bigfooters are going to be partying. They're going to be like, yes, those humans are gone. Okay, so tonight we have oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to, you do you. Good.
Do the thing. All right. Marnie Vinge is the host of Eerie Okie. This is an Oklahoma-based podcast that focuses on true crime, urban legends, spooky local lore, and the darker side of the Sooner State. She's also an author. She writes horror and thrillers under her real name, and then she writes romance under her pseudonym, Dallas Blake. I'm very excited to have Marnie on tonight. So the first episode I ever heard of hers actually was about Lawton, Oklahoma, and it piqued my interest because I'm like, wait, I know that. I think it came up on Stitcher, and it was on Shuffle or something, and it popped up, and I'm like, what? This person's talking about Lawton? And then I saw the title was Eerie Okie, and I'm like, what? There's a podcast out of Oklahoma? It blew my mind. And so we are really excited to have you on tonight, Marnie.
I am so excited to be here. I'm so excited.
I know you mentioned you were nervous, so let's go ahead and get you talking so that you can burn off that nervous energy. It's weird.
Sure.
We discussed before the show that it's weird being, when you're used to interviewing, it's weird being on the other side of the mic. Like,
oh, it's so weird. It's so weird. It's like when you're the person that's like running the show, you're like in control, you know, and so it's like hard when you're already a person that's not good at giving up control, which any of my friends and family can tell you is like a problem that I have. So that's
how I am.
Nerve-wracking. Yeah.
Yes.
It's
definitely that's how I am
weird
as well.
to be on that side of it.
You're nervous at first, and then usually, you know, you get to talking and you kind of forget about it a little bit. And if you're like me, you'll go listen to this episode 15 times and be like, oh my gosh, I should have said this, I should have said that. But I know you're going to do great. So we can just go ahead and get started. Dustin, do you want to go ahead and start off?
Yeah, I was going to ask what kind of creepy stories you brought for us.
Okay, so I thought that I would start with the one that most of my audience, like this was kind of a, I guess like a big moment for the podcast. So back last summer, I believe it was like July, I reached out to the Stone Lion Inn, and you guys probably know what that is, but basically the Stone Lion Inn is this bed and breakfast in Guthrie, Oklahoma, which is north of Oklahoma City, and it is reportedly haunted. It's been featured on like Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, so it's pretty well known within the paranormal community, I think. And anyway, I reached out to them on Facebook, and I was like, hey, I'm doing this podcast with a local radio station, and I wanted to see if it would be possible to interview the owner or anything like that. I didn't hear back, and so I called, and they didn't really give me a concrete answer one way or the other, but I guess the word got to Becky Luker, who is the owner, and I got like a message on Facebook then that said, this is Becky and I'm interested. And so I was like, okay. So I went out there and did the interview. It was really cool. I got like a private tour of the place, which have you guys ever either one been there?
I haven't been there yet.
Okay. It's super cool. Like it is, it's so old. Like it has had only 3 owners in the last 100 years, and Becky is one of those owners. And so, like, when you walk up, it even has, like, the little, I don't even know what the technical term is for it, but there's, like, a little awning that you would pull, like, a horse and carriage under, like, and then get out and go into the house and stuff like that. So it's super old, super cool, lots of cool, like, furniture and history within the house, like, movies have been made there, all kinds of stuff. And I got a private tour. That was super cool. But during the interview, I did not hear anything, like, nothing weird happened. There was, like, one moment where I kind of felt a chill, but I couldn't tell you looking back at what point in the interview that was. Anyway, so we do that. I get my private tour. I go home. I edit the episode. I listened to it twice when I was editing it. And the next morning it goes live, and the podcast always goes live at 5 o'clock in the morning on Fridays. And I usually sleep past 5 o'clock in the morning, so I woke up at like 8 that day, and I had a message from a listener, and she was like, "Girl, have you listened to this podcast?" And I was like, "Oh, no. What did I do?" Like, I was like, there's probably, like, some audio glitch or something, like, I really messed up. She's like, "No, go to," I think it was, like, 24 minutes and 30 seconds or something. There is an EVP in the interview. Yeah, so that was, like, and for anybody who doesn't know, I'm sure, like, most of your audience knows that that's, like, the electronic voice phenomenon. And so there was a lot of debate in the Eerie Okie's Facebook group about whether it was saying, "Come play" or "Go away." Like, so I kind of felt like that kind of divided people in terms of their outlook on life. You know, there were people who were like optimistic about it, and then people who were like, "No, this is definitely a demon." Like, so I thought that was kind of interesting, and that was super fun. Like, that was a really cool thing. And I had a listener message me that said, "I cannot believe that you walked into that place and hit record and you caught an EVP, and I've been trying to do that for 12 years." I was like, well, it'll probably never happen again.
It's how we feel about Bigfoot research.
I heard it, and it was pretty creepy.
And it is pretty creepy.
I couldn't definitely say which I thought it said, but it could go either way for me. I'm not 100%, but you could still hear it, and it made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up just a little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah. When I listened to it that morning after I got the message, I like put it on. I think I put it on like my Bluetooth speaker, and then I turned it all the way up. And when that part came, and you could hear that like voice, I mean, it like brought. You know how like when you experience something like that, it brings like tears to your eyes, and you get that like hair-raising feeling. That was exactly what it felt like when I heard it. And I like clapped my hand over my mouth, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is crazy."
So, what other kind of experiences have you had?
Okay, so this one's kind of a funny one. So back like at I want to say close to the beginning of the podcast, one of my friends was super instrumental in me starting it, and that's Johnetta. And she and I one night decided as two 30-plus-year-old women that we were going to go driving around and, like, not get out and trespass, but, like, look at the places where, like, the legend tripping happens. So we were like, we're going to go drive out to the Purple Church and just drive by, not get out, just, like, drive by the gate and see if it's spooky, whatever. And we're going to drive by Kitchen Lake, and we're going to drive by Crybaby Bridge and more. So we went to the Purple Church and did not get out because that is trespassing, and there's definitely someone in there with a gun that will chase you off, so just don't do that. But anyway, we went out there. That was super spooky. We kind of, like, spooked ourselves a little bit doing that alone, and then we were going south, and we went through more. And so we went, I don't know, like, for anybody who is not familiar with, like, the Purple Church legend, this is kind of a cool Oklahoma thing. So I believe it's in Spencer. It's, like, north of Midwest City. And basically, people for a long time have said that it's like a satanic temple or something like that, and that people are sacrificing things there. But where it gets, like, interesting to me is that it intersects with the Sean Sellers case, which was, he was a guy, I believe in the 80s or 90s, it was during the Satanic Panic in Oklahoma, that killed his parents, and it kind of got wrapped up in all that Satanism stuff. And anyway, some people said that the first place that he ever practiced it was at the Purple Church. So that kind of, it's like tied up, it's cool because it's tied up in an urban legend, but also some of it's factual. So it's kind of, you know, there's a lot of like gray of what really did and did not happen. But anyway, so we went there, and then we went to Crybaby Bridge and Kitchen Lake. And when I was in high school, Kitchen Lake was like a place that people went to scare themselves, basically. I went to Moore High School, and pretty much everybody at Moore knew Kitchen Lake and, like, the witch that lived out there, and that if you went out there, like, your house would catch on fire or whatever. And so anyway, John and I drive by there. Mind you, this is like 10 o'clock at night, and it's like pitch black out there because this is, for anybody who's not from Oklahoma, this is like on the edge of town where there aren't a whole lot of street lights, and we turn right down Air Depot, and we're going along, we're like listening to our music, having a good time, and we see ahead of us, there are two cars parked parallel to each other, like blocking the road. And so I slow down, and I'm like, what is going on? And we are watching this, and there's someone, like, standing by one of the cars, and he, like, spots us and kind of, like, nervously moves away. And so we're, like, pretty sure at this point that we are witnessing a drug deal and we're about to die. So we're like, maybe we should put the car in reverse. I don't know what we should do. And right at that moment, a group of teenagers with flashlights comes pouring out of the woods. So it's like they were legend tripping, and we were basically doing the same thing, and we scared each other to death. Like, they looked at us, and I could tell they were just so relieved that we were not police officers, and we were so relieved that they were not drug dealers. But, like, we kind of nodded and waved at each other, like, as we passed on the way out. And I remember Jonetta and I were laughing, and we were like, okay, so that definitely shaved 5 years off our lives. That was not a good time. But yeah, but it made me kind of happy to see that kids were still doing that. Like, it kind of, since I care so much about, like, folklore and stuff like that, I think that it felt kind of good to know that kids today still value that in some way. So that was cool, even though it did scare me.
Yeah, back in the day when we were in high school, it was creepy down in there. I haven't been down there since. But the bridge was out. It was an old, wasn't it? I think it was an old trestle bridge, kind of, but it was a short one, and half of it was missing, and it was creepy. And then about halfway down the road on the north side was this actual. All that's left was like a chimney in the stem wall of this house, and that was the witch's house. And I kind of want to go back now.
Yeah, I remember, and what's interesting about that too is back in, like, I want to say, this is like, I don't have my, like, dates or anything in front of me, so I could be wrong about the date, but first half of the 20th century, there was a really bad fire at Tinker Air Force Base, and part of the witch legend is that, like, there was a fire so bad at her house that she was so evil that, like, it scorched the rooftops of the houses around. And I always thought it was kind of interesting that, like, there was that really bad fire at Tinker, and it kind of coincided with the time that this became, like, an urban legend for that area. And so that's kind of, I think that's one of the things that fascinates me so much is, like, I think we use folklore a lot of times to explain things we can't understand or that feel out of our control, things like that. So that was kind of a cool connection that I found when I was researching that.
I don't think I knew about the big fire.
It was pretty bad. And I want to say that there was maybe more than one. Like, it happened at one point, and then maybe, like, 10 years later another one happened or something like that. It was pretty bad, but yeah. And then as far as, like, one of my other favorite stories from my time making the podcast happened last spring. I think it actually happened last Mother's Day. So my cousin and I decided that we were going to go out to Sacred Heart Mission. And I don't know, are you guys familiar with that place?
Yeah.
I know it, but I don't know if our listeners do.
Yeah, okay. So it's basically, there's a Catholic church there now, but it used to be part of an Indian boarding school. And there are all kinds of urban legends about, like, that it's, like, possessed, it's evil, there are ghosts, there are demons, like, all this stuff. And people hear voices out there, and they see things, and they see lights and stuff like that. And one of the big things about it is that you can't go back into the mission, which is the part that's supposed to be haunted, because that's, like, trespassing, and they really, really, really don't like that. they have so many problems with it that at Halloween, like a sheriff's deputy sits out there. And anyway, we went out there and just were kind of like we didn't really know what we were going to do. We kind of went very unprepared, which I would not do at this point doing this. But we got out there and we started looking around the, like, modern part of the cemetery, and which is, like, open to the public, you know, like any cemetery. And as we were walking around, this priest came outside, and, like, this was kind of, it's not in the middle of nowhere, but it's pretty far away from the city. And so this guy comes walking outside and he asked us, you know, like, who we're here looking for, you know, whatever. And I kind of explained to him who I am, what I'm doing, and you can tell immediately he's, like, put off by this. He is not amused by my shenanigans. And so he's like, he starts talking about the history of the place and, like, the fire that happened there and all this stuff. And then as he gets, like, to the end of the story, as he's telling me and my cousin all this stuff, he goes, nothing spooky in that, is there? Like he was like trying to reassure us that there is nothing like paranormal going on. So we're like, okay. And so we kind of lucked out though, because right around that time, the groundskeeper had come up into the sanctuary, and he was kind of talking about like Catholic traditions and stuff like that. And this is when we lucked out. A nice, respectable Catholic family walked up, and they wanted to see the area for like nice reasons, not because they were like paranormal researchers. So he ended up saying, sure, we'll take you on a tour of the mission. You guys can come too. Like, I don't think that would have happened if that nice Catholic family had not walked up. And he took us back there. The groundskeeper was hilarious. Like, he was so great. And he like walked us around, showed us all kinds of stuff. Like, there's really, really cool stuff. Like old cemeteries. Like, it's amazing. And there's also like I can't remember what they called it, but it's where they would make the bread for the school and for the church and stuff like that. And that building is still standing. And anyway, so he like took us out there and he's showing us all the stuff. And as he starts talking, he starts telling us, you know, about the place and about the urban legends and stuff like that. And basically everything that people say that they experience out there pretty much can be attributed to the fact that the groundskeeper lives back there. So, like, people hear voices and they hear like music, or they see lights flash or something like that, and a lot of it can be attributed to the fact that he is actually back there trying to get people off of his property. And one of the things he told us that was really funny was there was a brother at the church back in like, I want to say like the 60s or something like that, who really loved the fact that it had become like an urban legend hotspot, to the point that he would dress up like a ghost to try to scare teenagers that came out there, which I'm sure did nothing in the way of dispelling the rumors that this was not, you know, a haunted place. So I found that very interesting that guy got a lot of joy out of that. So that was kind of a fun story that he told us. But
was it?
Oh, go ahead.
Was it Sacred Heart the one that had the tombstone that said killed by human wolves or something like that, and that was part of the urban legend?
No, it is that is Kathleen Cross's tombstone, and so that is basically like the deal with her was like, if you read about the actual story of what happened, it's really, really heartbreaking. And so there's this tombstone in Oklahoma that became pretty famous, and it says it's Kathleen Cross, and on the tombstone it reads, murdered by human wolves. And so a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, that's really cool, like werewolves, you know, that kind of thing, and which is a lot more fun than what actually the story is. But so pretty much it seems, according to history, that she died as a result of a botched abortion, I believe. And so her family had that put on her tombstone, you know, because they felt like the doctors who did it were the human wolves. And apparently there were a whole lot of that happening in that area at that time. It's kind of an interesting historical Oklahoma thing, and you can read about it, I think, on 405magazine.com. They have a really good write-up of the whole thing of, like, everything that happened during that time with her and her family and the doctors that were involved. So, and the sad part about it today is that somebody stole the tombstone. So it's no longer there. They did.
Oh, I did not know that.
Isn't that awful?
Yeah, that's taking it too far.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I get that it's cool, but, like, that's a human being's tombstone. Like, so.
Mm-hmm. So I know you made notes.
Oh. No, y'all go ahead.
Sorry. I know you made notes and you have, you know, your things you want to talk about. But I was wondering if we could get, like, the scariest story you've ever heard or the scariest thing that's ever happened to you.
Okay, so scariest story that I have ever heard doing this. Oh. Okay, so this is actually, this happened to my mom, and it's not a paranormal story, but when she was a kid, she and my aunt were having a slumber party, like just the two of them, which my aunt isn't actually my mom's sister, they're just best friends, so I call her my aunt. So my aunt was staying over, they were having a slumber party, they were, you know, doing stuff late into the night, and they went to sleep, and at some point in the night, my mom woke up and heard something at the window. And, you know, she kind of got up and looked around, and the sound went away. And so she went back to sleep. And when they got up in the morning, they looked at the window, and someone had cut the screen, like a perfect rectangle, to get into the house. And that's probably one of the creepiest, like, stories that I've ever heard that happened to someone who I, like, consider trustworthy. Let's see, I'm trying to think what the scariest thing that's ever happened to me is. I can't think of anything, like, paranormal. The only things I can think about are, like, real life kind of things that were creepy, like kind of like let's not meet type stories. But,
well, I mean, you do cover true crime. You do cover true crime and mysteries and stuff. So, I mean, if you need to venture off into that, Dustin and I are the perfect people to go over that with you because we absolutely love true crime.
Okay, so one night, I'm a huge reader. I love to read. Love to go to Barnes & Noble. And one night, I went to the Barnes & Noble up off of Memorial. Like, I kind of needed a break from, that's how much I go to Barnes & Noble, is that I needed a break from the one in Norman. So I went to the one up on the north side. And so I was there, and I was with a friend, and, you know, we go book shopping, get our stuff, we check out, we go outside, I say goodbye to her, and I start walking towards my car. And when I get out there, about 2 parking spaces south of my parking space, there are 3 guys. And they're all standing around the car, looking up at the sky, and acting just, like, generally kind of weird, enough for me to kind of have that, like, bell go off that I need to be aware of them. And so I get to my car, and then one of them starts walking towards me, like, around the front of my car. And he says, hey, come here, like, you need to see this. This is a, like, once-in-a-lifetime meteor shower type thing. Like, it was super weird. Like, it was a very weird, like, sales pitch he was giving me. And so I was like, no, I'm okay, thanks. And he keeps walking around the front of the car. And, like, as he's walking around the front trying to talk to me, I realized that one of his friends is walking around the back of the car. So I, like, threw my books across the front seat and got in and shut the door and left it. And I grabbed my phone because I was just going to, like, call my mom to be like, hey, I'm going to talk to you until I get out of here, you know, whatever, like, so that I'm good and you can call the cops if I'm murdered. So anyway, I look at my phone, and as soon as I do that, they, like, jump in their car and leave, like, as quick as they can.
Oh, my gosh.
And, so I feel like that was kind of, like, telling that they did that, meaning that they had no good intentions, because if they had, I don't think they would have done that. But as far as, like, let's see. So when I was at the Stone Lion, I remember being in the basement by myself, and feeling kind of like there was a presence there. And I know that a lot of people who've been there say that there's nothing going on in the basement, but that was a little bit spooky. And then at Halloween, I interviewed the people who run the El Reno Haunted Barn, which that was a really cool story because they run a haunted attraction, but they believe it's actually haunted by a real ghost. So that's kind of a fun thing that's going on there. And actually, the ghost is someone that used to work the haunted attraction. So it's kind of a cool thing that's going on. But when I was there and I got my tour during the daytime, like, this is daylight hours. Like, the lights were not off. No one was jumping out. Like, it wasn't scary. But we got to one part in the haunted house, and I thought that Whitney was right behind me. She's like my best friend, and she went with me. And I kept turning around looking because I kept feeling like her hand was on my shoulder. And so I kept looking behind me, and every time I would look, she would be about 6 feet behind me. And I could swear that someone was putting their hand on my shoulder. And that's probably, like, the only time that I've felt something like that. That was a cool experience. A little bit scary, I guess, kind of, like, alarming, but that was pretty cool.
That's
I
creepy.
don't like to be touched.
Yeah.
That is creepy. So you did one over a werewolf. I think it was a werewolf or a wolfman in Lawton, Oklahoma.
The Wolfman of Lawton. Yes.
Yeah.
So that one, that is one of my favorite ones, and it actually came with a line that some listeners kind of use it as a catchphrase, I guess, like, which is, I know what I saw. And so basically, like, back in, I believe it was the 70s, people started saying that they had seen, like, a wolfman in Lawton. And when I say wolfman, I mean exactly that. I don't mean like a werewolf. I mean like the wolfman wearing his plaid shirt and his ripped up pants, and like that's what they were seeing. And so anyway, it turned out to be like a group of teenagers, I'm pretty sure, that were kind of like perpetuating this. However, a full-grown man in his 30s did have a heart attack as a result of being scared by them. So
oh my gosh,
that was a little bit crazy. But yeah, that one was super fun. And the guy who had the heart attack, they interviewed him, and one of the things he basically said, I know what I saw. Look, like, I know what I saw. So that was a fun one. A lot more fun than the human wolves of Carnival, I believe. But yeah.
That's awesome. Dustin, do you have any questions?
Yes. I've listened to the podcast, but what are your thoughts on the what is it called, the Oklahoma octopus? I think that's what it's called.
Oh God. Yeah. Okay. So that is really interesting to me because I think it there's a term that has been coined in recent years, I'm pretty sure, called folklore. And basically the idea behind it is like kind of like stories like Slender Man, where it started as like an internet meme, but then became more than that. Kind of like people started thinking that it was real and all that stuff. And so the Oklahoma octopus, no one can really find anything about it prior to the episode, I believe, of the Lost Tapes on Animal Planet, which was the episode that told the story of like some teenagers, I think, that were attacked by the Oklahoma octopus or whatever. And it was after that a lot of people started seeing it. So that was kind of an interesting thing. I think that like media and stuff like that can influence folklore a lot, and that was kind of an instance of that, I think. And it kind of reminds me of like the Blair Witch Project. Like, there are still people to this day who swear that is real. Like, that really happened. Like, that is, you know, for real. And, like, I mean, it's kind of crazy because the Blair Witch, like, that was at a time when I think that kind of marketing had never been done before. And it was kind of the idea of, like, this found footage is real, and we're just not going to correct you when you ask us if it's not, like, that kind of thing.
Oh, my gosh.
And so I think that was kind of I don't know, I think that was, like, a turning point in a lot of, like, the fake lore kind of stuff. Like, you know, as technology and special effects and all that stuff advances, it's going to be, like, a muddy area, I think. But yeah, I have not heard any accounts from anyone who has told me that they've actually seen the octopus. I do know that everyone who sees it says, for whatever reason, that it's red and the size of a horse. So I always found that very oddly specific. But I mean, I think that might be scary to see something the size of a horse, like, coming up out of the water at you. That could be a little bit scary. But one of the game wardens said something like that. He said he thinks it's something people are seeing after a few too many beers on the lake. And I kind of tend to agree with that one, especially because, like, nothing was really said before that episode. But I'm not, like, completely ruling it out. Like, I would love to hear from somebody who, you know, has seen something in the water. Like, that would be cool. But yeah. So that was an interesting one. I like that one. One of my other
I think
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that I think that's the only strange water creature besides, you know, the catfish as big as a Volkswagen Beetle and, like, Lake Thunderbird. I think that's the only strange water creature we have.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard of another one in Oklahoma.
Usually it's just the legend is it shifts from different lakes every time you hear it, but usually it's these divers were going down to see why the dam of the lake was jammed, and when they got down there they saw this catfish that was the size of a Volkswagen Beetle, and they almost died trying to get back to the surface. But I've heard that was in, like, Texoma, Thunderbird. all
right, yeah.
I heard it was in Texoma. Yeah.
One of my friends was on the podcast early on, and we did an episode about cryptids. And she shared a story. She had actually gone on, like, I think Reddit and posted and told everyone that she was going to do a podcast in Oklahoma and if they had any stories to send them to her. And one of them that I was kind of surprised about was a story about a skinwalker in Oklahoma.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Stay in Arizona. Stay away.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah. So that actually might be one of the spookiest stories I've ever heard about Oklahoma. So yeah, that was kind of scary. It was that typical story of, like, if you've ever read the Skinwalker stories, it's like they run alongside the car, they growl, like that kind of thing. It was all of that, and it was someone on I-40 out by Shawnee. So.
Oh no!
So I'm like,
that's too close.
Yeah, exactly.
Why can't it be up in the Panhandle where none of us live? Like, nobody lives over there.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got plenty of room to run out there. Hey, just go do it.
And it's close to the desert, you know, because the skinwalkers, you think of, like, New Mexico, Arizona. You don't think of Oklahoma. No.
Exactly.
No,
yeah.
we have
issues.
We have issues here. We have tornadoes and Bigfoot and mountain lions. Come on.
Yeah. We don't need that one extra thing.
No. And if we do, can we have, like, you know, I don't know, like, the weird octopus thing? Like, let's go back to that, you know? For anyone listening that is more interested in skinwalkers, because I can't stand to talk about them, like, we have done 2 episodes with Leonard Dan, and I had to bless my house after those episodes because
oh my God,
I was terrified and I was having weird crap happening in my house, weirder than normal. And so I actually had to bless my house after those episodes. That's how scary they were. They were terrifying. So anyone listening, go listen to those episodes, and also Marnie's episode with her friend that told about the one in Shawnee, which is really too close to me.
Yeah. It was spooky. Yeah. One thing that I just remembered, so have you guys ever heard about the legend that John Wilkes Booth, died in Oklahoma?
I think so.
Okay.
I think I've heard a
familiar.
little bit of it.
Okay, that's kind of a fun one. I did an episode about that with a young lady that is very close to my heart. Her name is Chandler, and she is from, I believe it was Enid, where this is supposed to have taken place, and you can actually see the room where he supposedly died, and so it's kind of a fun, claiming a little bit of American history for us. So
not the best bit, but
yeah, exactly.
Pretty interesting nonetheless. So have you ever done anything over Devil's Canyon over by Alpes, Oklahoma, or anything along those lines?
No.
I've always wondered, so there's a lot of lore over there about the Devil's Canyon and how there's gold hidden there. And that's all over Oklahoma, but mostly over there, that there's gold hidden there, and that people, there's supposed to be ghosts that protect it, or just people, die or get hurt trying to get it. And there's just a lot that goes on over there. And then also the parallel forest by Lawton in Medicine Park. And so we actually heard about that from a friend of ours that lives pretty close to Dustin. And he talked about how there's satanic rituals and all kinds of stuff there. I went to visit it. So what it is, it's a forest they planted during the Great Depression, and the trees are all 6 feet apart exactly. And so in every direction they're parallel. And it's very creepy. And I went there actually after we had that show, and it's just silent. It was so quiet I could hear everything. I mean, it was just deadly silent. It was very creepy, which I think is why people think it's haunted. But Danny told really great stories about, well, not great, they were horrible, but good content, but it was horrible, that there was just satanic things going on out there, and I think someone had left a dog tied up out there, and just weird stuff. But I went to visit it, and I was by myself, and I hiked through there, and it was really gorgeous, but it was really creepy. And so Dustin and I have this mission to go back at night. You're not allowed in there after dark, so but we're going to go back at night, and because we're rebels like that. And we want to go check it out for the paranormal aspect, and go see what's going on.
And I imagine
we'll report back.
Oh yeah, definitely. I imagine it has to be a little bit eerie to begin with everything being so perfectly safe. Since that's not natural. It's very creepy. I mean, you can just look down these rows of trees, and it's almost like a horror film, something's about to step down this row and look at you and chase you. I mean, it was very creepy. And I went, and it was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful, sunny, beautiful day. And there's little trails that go through there and stuff. And actually, I went in, and I was alone. And then I started hearing people, and I had hiked way back in there and started up a foothill, and then I was like, you know what, I'm alone. I should probably, head back to my car. And I was on a time limit because I had to drive back to Tulsa. And so I was like, okay, so I'm going to head back. So I start hiking out, and I come across, these people, and they were being so loud. And I don't know if they were really being so loud or if it was just so quiet in the forest that they were, overloading my senses. So I saw them, and I stopped and looked at them, and they looked at me, and I turned around and walked the other direction. Blatantly I didn't say hello, nothing. I just walked away. And then I go to walk out of the forest, and there's this guy, and I was wearing a Bigfoot shirt, and he and his girlfriend were also leaving, and he glances over, and he just busts out laughing. And I was just looking at him. I'm like, okay. And he's like, I'm sorry. He's like, we were in the forest, and I sneezed, and those people started freaking out thinking I was Bigfoot.
And I'm like, oh, he's like, yeah. And then we walk out, and you're wearing a Bigfoot shirt. And I'm like, okay, it was just like one of those weird, funny situations, kind of like we all kind of laughed and,
funny.
Relieved some awkward tension. But
yeah.
I do want to go back when it's dark because I think it's going to be super, super creepy with how quiet and creepy it is in there anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
group,
on the list.
Group,
you know what? We could do that right now. We're social distancing. That would be a thing we could do.
we just had to stay on each side of the tree, 6 foot apart.
I mean, I could do that. You get too close, I'll just bring a baseball bat and smack you with it.
I'll bring Lysol and a lighter.
Yeah. Listen, hateful. But yeah, so
Okay.
if you get anybody on your show, like if you can talk to anybody and see if they have any more information about parallel force, like the satanic things that go on out there, like I would love to hear that on your show.
Okay, me and Allie Summerfield actually did an episode where we talked about it like a little bit. We did like half and half of parallel forest and then half Kitchen Lake. But I definitely want to like look more into it. And at that time, nobody had like contacted me and said, "Hey, I've been to this place" or anything. So I will definitely let you know if anybody reaches out to me with, "Hey, I have a creepy story about the parallel forest."
That'd be awesome. Like, I'm interested, like, why do people think that satanic things happen out there? They said that there was an altar and, you know, that there was, like, a dog tied to it and it was barely alive and all this stuff. And I'm like, wait. I'm like, go back.
Yeah.
I didn't see any altar when I was there. Like, I went and looked. I mean, I guess there's flat rocks in different places, and I climbed onto a couple of them, so I hope that nobody's been sacrificed on top of those. Now I feel like I need to go take a shower.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that until just now. Okay. Anyways. So can you tell us about some of the books that you've written?
Okay, so I started publishing some novellas last year. So I've got 3 novellas that are available, and they're like in a it's not a box set. It's like 1 volume. It's like the Eerie Okie Short Reads Volume 1, and it's got 3 stories in it. The first one is a vampire story, like set in, all of them are set in Oklahoma. That's kind of my thing, is like anything that I write, whether it's romance or thriller or horror, it's all set in Oklahoma. Anyway, so there's like the vampire story, and then there's one about somebody who is photographing abandoned places and comes upon a little girl who is not all that she seems. And then the other one is about a taxidermized wolf that is not all the way dead. So that one was kind of fun to write. And then the one that I've got coming out next month it's called The Way It Ends, and it's about a professor from Oklahoma who kind of becomes like a self-help guru turned cult leader out in the Panhandle. And so that was super fun to write. It's a little bit dark, but I really enjoyed it. So yeah. I mainly write like thrillers and horror and romance, like, which seem like they're not even in the same like ballpark or anything, but that's pretty much what I enjoy.
Pretty awesome.
Thank you.
Hey, Marnie, what do you think Bigfoot is?
I don't know. I think that I've never had like an experience personally. I know that people like don't like the whole like woo aspect of it, but I really liked in the documentary The Town That Bigfoot Built, when there was a Native American gentleman talking about how the word for Bigfoot in one of the Native American languages is the same word for forget. And he talked about how a lot of times the people who see it have had something really horrible happen to them, and like Bigfoot is a way to forget that. And it's almost like a spiritual thing kind of. And that was probably my favorite thing I've ever heard about it. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that, like, it can't actually be a flesh and blood creature or anything like that. I would love to have an experience, though. that would probably sway me one way or the other.
Well, I'd hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess a sighting. I always worry that having a sighting will, like, put me off of Bigfoot for the rest of my life or something. You know, I'm worried that it's going to scare me so bad that I won't ever want anything to do with it. But then I think about all the experiences that I've had with the paranormal, and I'm like, oh, well. And the thing with that is, like, paranormal, I have experiences all the time to the point where I'm like, oh, I just don't really even, you know, care to talk about it, or, like, it's not even a big deal to me. And so I'm wondering, like, if I could get to that point with Bigfoot, I think I'd be okay with that. I'd be like, well, I've had so many sightings, I just don't even care anymore.
Yeah.
That's every Bigfoot researcher's dream.
Yeah.
Well, I think it all depends on what occurs during the sighting. Because, like,
right,
mine,
and the same for paranormal experiences.
Yeah. It's like with mine, with the little kid I saw, like, I still don't like ghosts, and they creep me the hell out. But the one Bigfoot sighting I had, you know, I didn't feel how I thought I would feel. Like, starting this whole thing, I thought I would be, I was always worried that I'd be too scared after the fact to want to go back or still not believe it. But after I had my sighting, I was, you know, excited, wanted to keep going back out in the woods, but it was only because it was from a distance and it wasn't throwing shit at me or yelling, which I still want that experience. I want an experience of something screaming at me. I want it 100% right there, but after that, it would probably be a different story, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember hearing Jim Whitehead talk about an experience where he said that they kind of, like, attacked his house or something like that. And that was, to me, that would be, like, absolutely terrifying and might put me off of it forever. But at the same time, I think that it's so rare that it's almost like, it's kind of like on the X-Files, how Mulder is like, he gets a little bit of information and so he wants more. Because it's like you're not getting the whole picture all at once kind of a thing.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we're people that usually go into the Bigfoot thing or paranormal, we're insatiably curious, and it's like curiosity killed the cat. And probably when stuff happens, we'll all be back for more. That's just how that works.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, Lauren, do you have any more questions?
All right. I don't. Well, we only have like 6 minutes, so I feel like I can't really ask any in-depth questions.
Well, hold on. I just had a listener question from Cherie Sanders. She wants to know.
Okay, go ahead.
How much do you know about the Crybaby Bridges here in Oklahoma? Or have you gone to any of them?
Yes, I have been to them like a long time ago, not recently or anything. Some of the really interesting stuff about those, one thing I've heard about those, which I thought was kind of a cool theory, is like that it actually ties into Bigfoot. Have you guys heard that? I'm sure you have.
I have, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know though. I think that the Crybaby Bridge, it's kind of like how every culture kind of has that story about a woman losing her child kind of a thing. I think it's sort of like that, because they're everywhere. Like there are so many all over Oklahoma and so many all over the United States. And I can remember being a kid and like that was one of the first introductions to an urban legend that I ever got, was like on the playground, someone telling me about the Crybaby Bridge.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's one in every. Sorry. There's one in every single town.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
One that's interesting. It's not a bridge. I think it's somewhere in southern Oklahoma where the road's an optical illusion, and if you drive up to it and you put your car in neutral, it looks like you're being pushed uphill. And I don't know what that is. But people say if you put baby powder on your bumper, you'll see little fingerprints all over your bumper, like little kids are pushing it because allegedly a school bus got hit by a train or something to that effect back in the day.
So that's actually in Texas.
But is that in Texas?
Yeah, that's in Texas. It's in, like, I think San Antonio, because my mom and I went and we did it, and we did find handprints and fingerprints all over our bumper that were not mine.
Oh, wow.
It was crazy.
We had one too.
The one we went to was in Texas, and if you look it up, there actually was a school bus full of kids that died. It was like in the 50s or something, and yeah, and I know Mythbusters has done a thing where they're like, oh, it's just an optical illusion, but I mean, it's like we sat there and we sat like we weren't rolling, it was in neutral, and we sat there just still for a long time, and after the car in front of us rolled over, then our car like stuttered or shuddered, and then it just slowly started moving forward and then picked up speed and went over, and then it just like coasted down the hill and into the parking lot. And then, you get out and check your bumper, and you're just like, holy crap. And it was so creepy. And we actually had our cousins were with us, and they were on the outside of the vehicle because they wanted to make sure. They were looking under the car, like looking behind it because they didn't believe it. And they didn't see anything except for the car like start shaking and then move. It was crazy. And I was so young when it happened, so I want to go back as an adult and do it again,
Let's go. I got a new truck. Let's go.
I read an article recently.
Test it out.
I read an article recently that was about like the games that we played as kids at slumber parties, and it was like stuff like, oh gosh, I can't think of some, like light as a feather, stiff as a board, and then like cat scratches and stuff like that. And it went through like all of them, explaining like how they work and how it like happens, all this stuff, and then it gets down to the bottom to cat scratches, and it's like, yeah, there's no explanation for this. It's definitely demons, which I thought was really funny.
Yeah, growing up, like, we would do, like, the Bloody Mary thing and stuff like that. Like, we were really into all that. And I'm just like, like, being who I am now, if I catch my kids doing that, like, y'all are going to wish Bloody Mary got y'all, because I will be all over you guys. Not in my house, sirs. Not in my house. I am way, how hard I have to bless this house to get that out of here? I will make them look supernatural until they feel like they don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Terrible. So we are actually out of time now. Thank you again so much for coming on tonight. I have really enjoyed it, and hope to have you back. I know you said you would love to do a show with us, so just let us know when you're available, and we will come talk your ear off about Bigfoot or serial killers or whatever you want to talk about.
Awesome. Yeah. Sounds great. And thank you so much for having me. I had a really good time.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Marnie.
No problem.
Absolutely.
Got to break up this self-isolation somehow.
I know, the self-quarantine, right? You're pretty desperate if you came on air with us. Like, if you agreed to be interviewed, you're pretty desperate. No, but we do appreciate you coming on, and everyone out there, go listen to her podcast, Eerie Okie. Even if you're not from Oklahoma, it's still great stories to hear, great accounts, and also read her book. New one coming out soon.
And also, if you've been self-quarantined and watching Netflix and you've watched Tiger King, Marnie has a 3-parter or 4-part on Joe Exotic?
3-part.
3-part. She has a 3-parter on Joe Exotic, and she goes into quite a bit of detail, and it's pretty good.
Thank you.
Well,
go check it out. And just real quick, if anybody is really quarantining hard and y'all are doing your due diligence as American citizens and you're staying home, be sure to go back and listen to our archived shows. You know, we've been on the air for over 10 years now, so there is plenty of material. Start at the beginning and work your way up to now if you're just really, hard up for some new stuff or old stuff, because we have got some really great shows in the archives that are well worth listening to. Also, as always, feel free to message us ideas on new guests or topics for us to talk about. All right, you guys. You guys stay safe and stay healthy, and we'll holler at y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Night Bigfoot Radio.